No mortgage, no power bills, and no more relying on a world that's clearly gone a little bit batshit crazy over the last few years. In this video, we're going to break down all the reasons why we decided to build our off-grid dream home here in the Philippines. We're going to discuss how it works, what it cost us, what it saves us, and why we think it's really important. And spoiler alert, it cost us less than a Tesla Cybertruck.
I think I know what I prefer.
Yeah, they're pretty ugly.
No.
In October 2024, we started building our beautiful 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom villa. That's with an 80 square metre terrace with a small pool, a separate guest house with its own bathroom, all set on 1,440 square metres. Now the total cost was only $107,000 US. That includes enough solar so we never have to have a power bill, rainwater collection tanks, veggie gardens, some ponds for fish, and some cheeky chickens that are arriving soon so we can collect their eggs. Now building this house wasn't just about saving money, it was about taking back control of some things that are really important to us, like our time, our energy, and recreating a way that we really want to live.
It is still a work in progress, and although we're learning as we go, I think we're doing pretty well.
Yeah, I think we are. Our goal really is to stop being dependent on a system that's really proven to us over the recent years that it can't be trusted. Going off-grid isn't just about giving things up, it's about getting back the things that matter, like our time and freedom and a sense of security that you can actually feel. Remember when the world shut down during COVID and went a little bit nuts? Well, for us, that was a really big wake-up call. And if the many comments on our channel are anything to go by, it is super clear that many of you want to step out of the system and into a much simpler way of life. I think during the pandemic, it really highlighted just how vulnerable we've become and how dependent we've become on systems and supply chains which we simply have no control over. So we basically reassessed and we thought, what are the 3 main priorities for us? The first one was having the ability to grow our own food. The second one was having cheap or free access to power and water. And the third one was not working ourselves into the ground just to afford stuff that we can't even have the time to enjoy. You know, when April and I got together, we didn't realize that we've both been dreaming of having a much more simple, grounded life in the countryside. And so we basically stopped everything and started building our off-grid dream home here in Bohol.
When I was a kid, I remember we couldn't always afford to buy meat. But when we want vegetable, Mom and Papa would always go out in the garden and pick some. Back then I didn't realize that simple life is what I've always wanted.
Now before we dive into the build, if you just give me a couple of minutes, I want to try and explain to you why having an off-grid, self-sustainable kind of a lifestyle was a non-negotiable for me. If you want to fast forward this, go to the timestamp below. But basically 2017, I lost my mum to cancer, and 2 years later, I lost my dad also to cancer. They were both living in New Zealand while I was working in Australia. And while I had a really good boss who let me take my leave to go and see them and spend time with them before they passed, I'll never forget the night that I had to leave Mum and hop on a plane back to Australia to a job that I was exchanging for money that would just simply come and go. I walked out the door looking back at Mum with tears in my eyes. And I'll never forget the feeling that I was prostituting my time and having to pick the moments that I could spend with my family. 2 years later, I hopped on a plane to see Dad and I arrived literally 5 minutes too late. Something broke in me at that time. And I decided that my life had to be different. So at the end of 2019, I quit my job, I sold one of my rental properties and I bought a cafe by the beach. And it was all going pretty well. I had a 28-foot boat in the marina, a vintage caravan in the yard, and basically 0 time to enjoy them. All they really did was drain my bank account and add to my stress. Then COVID hit and I got the jab basically to keep my cafe open and my staff in jobs. I really didn't want to have the jab. 3 days later, I started having palpitations and migraines, and I still have them to this day. So if anyone wants to sponsor a defibrillator machine, hit us up, send us a PM. Eventually, I sold everything. I sold the house, the cafe, the boat and the caravan, and I cannot express just how light I felt after getting rid of all the stuff that I thought I needed. In 2024, I moved to Bohol to be with April, and we started our journey together, and I couldn't be happier. Well, that's enough fluff. Let's get down to the nuts and bolts and find out exactly what we built, how much it cost us, and how it works. Starting with the land cost us 1.3 million pesos, which is about 23,000 US dollars. It's 1,440 square meters, and the soil is rich and fertile and great for growing vegetables. And for just $84,000 we were able to build everything else. At the moment I'm standing in the main house, which is 112 square meters in the center of the living area. This is 40 square meters with a little pocket garden on the back which houses our laundry and also a little outdoor kitchen that adds another 16 square meters. It has two identical 20-meter bedrooms. Each bedroom has an identical semi-outdoor bathroom which adds another 10 square meters each. It also includes a guest house which is 16 square meters with a 6-meter bathroom which totals 22 square meters. A huge 80 square meter terrace with a small pool. Custom cabinetry throughout. A stone driveway and car park, which initially was going to be concrete, but we didn't want it to look like a car park. It includes fencing for the entire 1,440 square meter lot. It's basically made of bamboo with steel pipe, and that only costs us 130,000 pesos. And all appliances. The $84,000 even covers the cost of our solar system, which was 415,000 pesos, or about 7,400 US dollars. And that's about half of what I paid for a very similar system in Australia. Now it includes a 6 kilowatt inverter. We have two 10.24 kilowatt batteries and 8.8 kilowatts of solar on the roof. That's enough to power the house during the day and charge the batteries, so we can run the whole house at night time, even with a couple of air cons running, and still wake up in the morning. We have about 40 to 50% battery left. Now with the average cost around here of being about 11.5 pesos per kilowatt hour, I'm not very good with maths, that means we're going to save about 11,000 pesos a month and about $2,400 per year. So I figure in about 3.2 years we've paid for the solar system, and then we're having free electricity. Something we didn't even know we needed until it rained for 5 days straight was a drainage system, which is basically a trench around the front of the property. And when life gives you lemons, what do? You make lemonade. Raymond, our architect, suggested that if we're going to have standing water, we should have some fish in there, so we're going to put tilapia. They'll eat the larvae, and also it'll be a food source in case the world goes batshit crazy again. I'm currently standing on the cistern, which is basically two 6,000 litre chambers. This one that I'm standing on at the moment is the town water that is pumped in. If we run out of that, we can then access the next chamber, which is rainwater that's collected from our roof, running down the gutters into pipes that are underneath the stone and into here. We have a separate pump which will pump the rainwater out of here, and we can use that to water gardens, or to push, if we run out of town water, we can use it for our house. I think one of the most important things we learned in COVID was that supermarket shelves can't always be relied on. So for us, growing our own food was super important. On this side of the property, we've started with 8 garden beds, and the guys have just made them with laying stones and then rendering them with cement. So they're not too deep, but we have brought in some beautiful organic soil from the garden centre. On the other side, we're going to have another 5 or 6 garden beds. That'll give us about 15. And on the other side over there, we're going to have crawling vegetables, which are going to be around our little citrus alley. We already have 2 garden beds which we've planted, and we have put in some seedlings or full-grown plants. April says I'm very, very impatient. We should have got seedlings, but I don't want to wait. Anyway, we've got some tomato plants here, some okra Winfrey, which are already fruiting. We've taken 1 harvest from already. And on the other side, we have some chilies, which is very, very important for Filipino cooking. 3 different types of chilies, and some Japanese eggplant, which should really be called Filipino eggplant, because Filipinos love these things, and so do I. It makes the best breakfast, torta talong. The other day we had some kangkong, which is water spinach, and I was going to throw it out. April said, no, put it in the ground. And look what's happened. It's already sprouting, so apparently these are going to take over, and then we don't have to buy kangkong anymore. In this corner of the garden, this is where they cut all the wood from the property, so we have lots of beautiful wood chips in here. It's very fertile soil. We're going to just leave it as is and put in some crawling vegetables like pumpkin and some arches with cucumber, alabati. But we also have the citrus trees on the outside. We have some American lemon, not Australian lemon unfortunately, some lemon cito. We have 4 different plants, which is also called calamansi, which are great for mojitos. And also we have some beersong, not to be confused with bisong, which is something rude, but that's what we call a kaffir lime, really good for curries. This is just how fertile the soil is. We have a jackfruit tree on the other side, which they were harvesting before the house was built, and they just, the guys just threw seeds basically wherever. And now we have several little jackfruit trees. Also around the property we've planted rambutan, mangosteen, and a mango tree as well. So We strategically put them on the outside so it doesn't obstruct the property. In this little section back here behind the raised garden beds, we're going to build a chicken coop just to house maybe 5 or 6 cheeky chickens so we can steal their unborn and have omelettes for breakfast. So yeah, we're mortgage free, we're power bill free.
And more free than we've ever felt in our lives.
And the money I had left over from selling the property in Australia completely funded the build here, and I had enough left over to buy a couple of beach properties in Alona, which we Airbnb and gives us enough income to live. Now I know I've walked away from a couple of things like the great Aussie healthcare system and a future pension, but what I've gained in return is my time. Time to do what I want, when I want. And instead of having to run off to an office, I can choose to take our niece and nephew fishing. Anything yet?
Oh, look. There's a fishing boat right there. We've got a lot. So, you're thinking what I'm thinking?
Yeah, buy from them. And the sales happen right here on the port. And to us, that's real wealth. Look, it's not like we're lazing around all day in hammocks drinking beer. Well, not the hammock bit anyway. We still work, but we work for ourselves, doing things that matter to us. Look, this lifestyle isn't for everyone, but if you're stuck, feeling stretched thin, or wondering if there's another way to live, maybe it's time to ask yourself, what are you really working for? And it didn't cost $1 million. In fact, it only cost 107. A few hard decisions and a re-evaluation of what really matters to us. So maybe the better question would be, what would freedom look like to you? Oh wow, you're still there. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you can keep up to date what's happening here at Corellia Homestead. We're the Grounded Gonads, grounded nomads. Till next time, take care.